Hi, I'm Tammy. Welcome to Beyond Pink Ribbons, the podcast. This is episode 1, After the Finish Line. Before we get into that, I want you to know exactly who I am. I've been wanting to bring this podcast to life for about a year now. Not because I have it all figured out, but because I knew it needed a space. There were conversations I kept having in my head, things I wish someone had said out loud, moments that didn't fit into quick updates or social media posts. The kind of thoughts that show up after an appointment or late night when everything is finally quiet. The kind of feelings that don't make sense in a caption. And eventually I realized if I couldn't find the space I needed, I might have to create it. And that's something I've learned about myself recently. When I need something and I can't find it, I build it. I don't always feel ready, but I know when something matters. That's how Boobless Baddies of Georgia started. I needed a room where I didn't have to explain my body, where being flat wasn't the conversation, it was just normal. And if I needed that, I figured other women probably needed it too. That's how my nonprofit started, because I kept seeing the gaps in the system, seeing women stressed out about bills while fighting for their lives. And I couldn't ignore it. And that's how this podcast is starting. Not because I have the answers, but because I need these conversations just as much as anyone that's listening. I'm not sitting here as someone who figured it out. I'm sitting here as someone who's still living it. And sometimes building the space you need is part of surviving. Why Beyond Pink Ribbons? I want to explain the name. Everyone knows the pink ribbon. It's everywhere in October. But breast cancer goes beyond that ribbon. Beyond awareness campaigns. Beyond slogans. Beyond the inspirational quotes you see on the internet. Beyond Pink Ribbons is about the person. The human being behind the diagnosis. My nonprofit, beyondpinkribbons.org, exists because treatment is expensive. Insurance doesn't cover everything. Chemotherapy can cost thousands every month. People can't work. They fall behind on their rent, mortgages, utility bills, even prescriptions they can't fill. And when you're trying to survive something life-altering, the last thing you should be worried about is whether the lights stay on. My nonprofit has been able to pay mortgages, car payments, prescriptions. I've helped pay medical bills. It just feels good to be able to give that relief to somebody, even if it is just a $300 car payment. It's something. And sometimes what someone needs is more than just advice. It's relief. Relief for 1 month. Relief so they can breathe. Relief so they can focus on fighting. That's what Beyond Pink Ribbons does. And that's what this podcast is also about. Life beyond the ribbons. Today I want to talk about what happens after the finish line. What happens when the treatment ends. When the crisis passes. When people say, "You're strong, move on," but you don't quite feel finished. Survival is loud. The after is not. The after is quiet. And quiet can be unsettling. Because during survival, everything is structured. There's urgency. There's adrenaline. There's so many appointments. There's a plan. But when that slows or even stops, you're left with yourself. This isn't a medical podcast. I'm not here to give advice of any kind. I'm not here to tell you how you're going to heal faster. There isn't a timeline for this. We all move through things in our own time, and that matters. It's so important not to compare yourself to where other people are at. You don't know what their middle look like. You don't know what they process privately. You don't know what they're still carrying today. From the outside, healing can look very neat. It's not. It's very messy. I do think a lot of us move through similar steps: the shock, fear, anger, acceptance. But we don't move through them in the same order, and we definitely don't move through them at the same speed. Some people sit in anger longer. Some sit in grief. Some move quickly through the visible parts and then get stuck later in the quiet, and that's okay. Staying on a certain step a little longer doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're processing. It means something mattered. It means something shifted. There's no medal for healing the fastest, and there's no reward for pretending you're further along than what you are. Your pace is your pace, and that is enough. This space is for the in-between, for the after, for the part where the appointments slow down and the phone stop ringing as much. It's for the identity shift, because surviving doesn't just affect your body. It affects how you see yourself, how you see time, how you see people, how you see what really matters. This is a place to talk about what survival does internally, how it rearranges you, how it changes your tolerance, how it makes small talk feel smaller, how it makes certain things matter more. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be inspirational. You just need to be honest with your feelings, honest with yourself and where you currently are in your recovery. And if you're listening, I'm so glad you're here. Who I am is a mother. I'm a writer. I learned how to survive, but I'm still learning what comes after that. Yes, I am a breast cancer survivor, but that's not all of me. And that's part of what this episode is about. When something big happens to you, people often see that event before they see you. You become the diagnosis, the survival story, the headline. People ask about treatment. They ask about outcomes. They ask about what the doctors might have said. But not many people ask, who are you now? And that question matters because survival changes you. It definitely changed me. Not just physically, but internally. It changed what I tolerate, what I care about. It changed how I see time. It changed how I see myself. There's a version of me that existed before cancer. Quiet, tried to please everybody. I showed up when people needed me. And then there's a version of me that exists after, who writes, who advocates. I advocate for breast cancer, being flat, going on walks. I've been on 11 walks in 3 years. And neither one of those versions of me are wrong, but they are different. Survival rearranges things. It rearranges your priorities, your patience, your relationships. Sometimes it makes you quieter. Sometimes it makes you louder. For me, it made me more aware. More aware of what matters. More aware of what I'm willing to accept in my life. More aware that time is not something to waste. And that's not being dramatic. It's being honest. When the noise stopped, when treatment ended, something unexpected happened. It got quiet. Not a peaceful quiet, just quiet. For years, my life had rhythm. Appointments, scans, waiting rooms, phone calls. Even fear had structure. There's something strange about having fear scheduled. It It gives it edges. But when that schedule disappears, there are no edges, just space and quiet. Space can feel heavier than a crisis. Because in crisis, you know what to do. You show up, you push through, you fight to survive. In the after, you have to sit. And sitting is harder than pushing. That's when the grief shows up. The questions you had that you didn't have time to ask before. Why am I still tired? Why don't I feel relieved? Why does this feel harder now that it's technically over? No one really prepares you for that. The day my surgeon released me a little over 2 years ago, that was supposed to be good news, and it was. But when he said, you don't need to come back like this anymore, something inside me changed. For 17 years, those appointments were structure. When the structure ended, it felt like, all right, you're good now. But I didn't feel good. Your body doesn't turn off survival just because the appointments stop. I didn't cry in front of him that day. Strength is automatic for me. But I did cry in my car. Not because I was losing my surgeon. He's still my surgeon. But because I was losing the reassurance. I needed for him to tell me I'm going to be okay for 365 more days. Even though reality, he can't guarantee that. I knew that. But I just needed to hear him say, I'm going to be okay. And I drove 3 hours home that day. And between the highway signs and the songs on the radio, it occurred to me, if he's not going to see me every year, how am I going to know if my cancer comes back? That opened up a whole nother endless list of questions that I didn't have answers to. And that's when I realized the finish line doesn't always feel free. Sometimes it feels like you're on your own. And that day, I cried almost all the way home because I felt like I'm on my own. How am I going to know if my cancer comes back? What do I look for? My breasts are gone. There were so many unknowns that day. The expansion that no one mentions, and here's the part no one really talks about, sometimes after the finish line, you don't collapse. Sometimes you expand. In the past few weeks, I've written 3 books. I launched this podcast. I'm organizing a breast cancer walk in my town in May. I'm expanding my nonprofit. And I've asked myself, who am I to be doing this? Even last night, making the post on social media that my podcast will be live in 2 days. Am I going to live up to the expectations that people have for me? Am I going to be able to offer somebody something? But here's what I've realized. Survival changes urgency. When you face something that reminds you life isn't guaranteed, you stop postponing yourself. You stop waiting for perfect timing. You stop asking for permission. But growing can feel just as overwhelming. Sometimes when you grow, it feels like the ground shifts under you. It's not fear of failure. It's fear of responsibility. Fear of being visible. Fear of that I move too much. But I'm learning this. The only expectation I have to meet is integrity. If it aligns with my mission, if it serves women who need it, if it's honest, then it's enough. And I want you to know something. I don't build these spaces because I have it all together. I don't. I build them because I need them too. I needed rooms where I don't have to explain myself. I need conversations that go deeper. I need support just as much as anyone else. And why this matters to me is because supporting women, supporting each other, isn't just about showing up when it's easy. It's about showing up when it's hard. That's why Boobless Baddies of Georgia exist. Because sitting across from someone who just gets it changes something inside you. It softens the isolation. It straightens your posture. It reminds you you're not alone. And sometimes that kind of support does more than advice ever could. This podcast is part of that. I show up to my breast cancer walks, and yes, I do walk shirtless to spread awareness, to show my daughter that a woman doesn't need boobs to be a woman. I feel better in my skin today than before I had my D-cup breast removed. I am confident in myself. I am confident with everything that I do. I'm putting everything I have into this podcast. I've put so much into my nonprofit for 2 years. I'm organizing a walk. A walk. I've been to so many walks, but now I'm organizing one? That's crazy. But it's something that I need. I need to give this to other people the way that other people give it to me. I go on 2 to 3 walks a year. And they mean so much to me, to where if I can give that to somebody in a town that doesn't have that, that makes me feel good. And I also need it. Before I go, I want to say this. You don't have to have it all figured out to be worthy. Wherever you are in your story, take it one breath at a time. If today feels heavy, be gentle with yourself. And I know we hear that all the time, but it's true. If today feels quiet, let that be enough. I let myself feel whatever there is. The tears, the anger, the sadness, but I don't unpack and live there. I feel it. I put my gloves back on, and I deal with the next thing. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Your presence means more than you know. Take care of yourself, and I'll meet you here next time.